Lucifer's face, knowing that, without his body, Mu couldn't do much against him. However, there was one small problem. Lucifer couldn't enter Earth to finish him off so easily. There was only one way for him to do so. He had to convince the Dragonling to reveal how he could access or enter Mu's planet. Lucifer also brought the defeated dragon to his domain, promising him that if he cooperated and helped him get to Earth to get rid of Mu, he would make the dragon the new god of Earth in Mu's place. Lucifer was confident that this offer might tempt Mu's assistant into betraying him for the chance to gain power. The Dragonling, however, didn't give a clear response. Instead, he whispered something so quietly that Lucifer couldn't make out what he was saying. Annoyed, Lucifer demanded that he speak louder, at least enough for him to hear his answer. Finally, the Dragonling spoke up, but instead of answering directly, he pointed at the barrier around Mu. He asked Lucifer if the barrier, which could block time and space, could also stop attacks from passing through it. Lucifer assumed the Dragonling was asking because he wanted to rescue Mu, so he confidently assured him that no attack could harm or penetrate the barrier. He even emphasized how invincible it was and told the Dragonling to just give up and consider joining his side instead. But then something strange happened. Lucifer noticed the surroundings were starting to get brighter. Suspicious, he turned to see what was going on, and what he saw made him freeze. The Dragonling's injured body was glowing with a golden light, crackling with energy. At first, Lucifer was shocked, trying to figure out what the Dragonling was planning. But his shock quickly turned to fear when the Dragonling suddenly shouted, "Massive self-explosion!" In that moment, before Lucifer could react, the roof of his castle, the very place he used as the base to control his domain, was completely shattered. But in the next second, his entire castle was obliterated, disappearing like it had been hit by a nuclear bomb. And yet, that wasn't even the craziest part. The explosion was so massive that it burned an entire side of the god's realm to ashes. The Dragonling had used 99% of his strength for that explosion, and as a result, he reverted to his smallest, weakest form, a tiny lizard. Covered in smoke and dust, he did his best to make a run for it before Lucifer realized what had happened. Knowing there was nowhere safe for him anymore, the poor lizard had only one place to go, back to his master on Earth. But Lucifer wasn't about to let him escape that easily. Emerging from the dust, furious and betrayed, Lucifer stormed after him, clearly angry enough to turn the lizard into stew for what he saw as an abuse of his kindness. The Dragonling sprinted as fast as he could, desperate to stay out of Lucifer's reach. But before he could make it, Lucifer summoned a magical spear and hurled it at him with all his might. The little Dragonling, now missing part of his tail, was only a few meters away from Mu's throne and the gateway to Earth. Despite everything, the magical spear missed him, and he managed to leap onto Mu's throne, then onto the miniature Earth's surface, vanishing from godly domain and reappearing in Earth's sky. Completely drained of energy, Mu's poor assistant didn't even care where or how he was going to land. He simply closed his eyes and let fate decide for him. And, as it turned out, fate had chosen him to be his master's savior. The object that had hit Kang's face earlier, stopping him from landing the final blow, was none other than this tiny, exhausted lizard. That was everything he could remember, and Mu, after hearing the Dragonling's explanation about everything that had happened, fell deep into thought. His now small assistant couldn't help but wonder if something was wrong, but as expected, Mu wasn't sad. He was furious. Furious enough at Lucifer that, if he ever got the chance to return to his original body, he wouldn't let Lucifer live another second. All of a sudden, Mu's expression shifted from anger to excitement as he realized he finally had a chance to fight Lucifer again, a proper, all-out battle. Even the little one, his assistant, after all these years wasn't used to how quickly Mu's attitude and emotions could change, so he was a bit startled by it. Mu sprang out of Lee's bed, buzzing with excitement, finding yet another purpose to keep going, but deep down, he knew he stood no chance against Lucifer in this body. The only option was to work harder and make Lee's body stronger. However, Lee's weak, battered body was in such bad shape that even throwing a light punch at the air made him feel like everything was breaking. Mu couldn't help but wish this new body could heal faster. Then, it hit him. He had told Dragonling to find a magical orb for him the last time they met. Turning to the small lizard, he asked, almost hopelessly, if there was any chance he got that and had brought it back to Earth. To his surprise, Dragonling had actually brought the magic orb, or at least that's what it claimed. Since he didn't have anything like a pocket or bag to carry it, the little lizard had been hiding the orb deep in his stomach. Now, at Mu's request, he slowly began to cough it up. But because the orb was bigger than the lizard itself, Mu's assistant struggled a bit to deliver it to his god. Once he finally finished, Dragonling explained that it was a dragon bloodstone infused with a one-time healing spell. The little lizard apologized for only bringing one, saying he was in a hurry, and of course, he couldn't carry more. Mu didn't wait for his assistant's saliva to dry and immediately picked it up to take a closer look. As soon as he held it in his hand, he thanked Dragonling and told him this orb would be more than enough for now. Without hesitation, Mu activated the orb, releasing its healing effect immediately, making it to shrink in size simultaneously. Only a few moments later, Mu's body was surrounded by a green aura radiating from the orb, and his wounds started healing instantly. But that wasn't even the best part. Mu suddenly noticed something surprising. The orb's effect wasn't just limited to healing. He could feel his muscles becoming more responsive, almost sensitive in a way they weren't before. There was only one explanation. The orb must have also been infused with a body enhancement spell, which was visibly improving Li's weak body. Noticing Mu's impressed reaction, Dragonling proudly admitted that he'd personally put effort into it and infused his own magic into the dragon bloodstone. Mu appreciated it as he stared at the leftover remains of the orb, thinking that it must be because it was used on a weak human body. Not all of its power had been consumed, which explained the leftover fragment. He handed it to the little lizard, giving him permission to use it for himself. However, Dragonling didn't want to waste it on himself. Instead, he decided to store it for Mu to use later in case of an emergency. Just like before, he carefully pushed it back to its resting place, deep inside his stomach. The scene suddenly shifted to a rare yellow lizard on the other side of the city. Surprisingly, it was the favorite pet of the girl from earlier. She didn't see it as just an animal. It was one of her closest friends. She even wished it could talk so that neither of them would ever get bored. Not long after, she stopped playfully annoying her pet and returned it to its cozy home. She needed to head out, likely to school. Since pets weren't allowed there, she needed to leave it behind to live its own life for a while. Peace returned to her home as she attempted to leave, but that day, life at school was no different. Everything seemed calm and peaceful. No one was bossing others around or causing any trouble. Even the beaten-up bully from before was quietly sitting at his desk. Now wearing glasses, he was fully focused on his studies. The pain he had endured after facing Mu had knocked some sense into him. Instead of wasting his time, he was now preparing for exams, determined to turn things around. Everything was fine until Mu decided to make one of his usual over-the-top, dramatic entrances into the classroom. The moment he walked in, he noticed the beaten-up guy and, without hesitation, asked if he wanted to go for another round of fighting. It wasn't clear if Mu was just messing with him or being completely serious, but before he could get an answer, the president girl appeared behind him, acting all surprised to see that Li had actually decided to show up at school after being absent for so long. Mu, with the little lizard crawling under his shirt and causing a slight commotion, casually replied that he was only here because she had convinced him earlier. Of course, he added that the only reason he came was to look for someone to fight and beat to death. His intimidating expression and choice of words made the girl wonder